Greetings, everyone. Welcome. This is Coach Veronica Marie, and I'm here today to talk about the wild woman archetype. These talks have been part of a divine feminine exploration of different archetypes that happen at different stages throughout our lifetimes, even throughout the months, the days, and even situationally, these archetypes come in to assist us. We can look at archetypes as energies. And so we are now on this divine feminine wild woman archetype. Some women's literature they call this archetype the enchantress. Whatever you call it, we understand this activation very well. Okay, so when we look at it in the scope of a lifetime, let's say somewhere between mid 30s on up, there is this what I call an activation, an energetic activation that touches our lives in many different ways. On a previous video, I mentioned how this energy will cause you to feel restless. You could start feeling restless with a career you've had since you were in your 20s, restless within your relationships, restless within your body. Things you used to tolerate well, you no longer tolerate well. You move away from what do I get to do of the maiden activation, out of what do I have to do, what is required of me in the mother activation. And we sit heavily in this energy of what do I desire? What do I desire to create? So we're talking about the area of sensuality today. These archetypes came into my awareness through the wild woman archetype. Not only was I cycling through this beginning activation in my life, and I will say I continue to be activated through many of life's circumstances. I'm not out of the wild woman activation. And I got to tell you, now, even when I look back, I think that this is probably my favorite activation. A lot of people can say, the mother phase was their favorite, or they had a really good teenage or childhood life. And so that was their favorite. But this is my favorite. Maybe it's because I got all these Aquarius placements in my chart. Maybe it's the way I was raised. I don't know. But I just have a divine love for freedom, sovereignty, autonomy. And I have a special affection for people who have that same energy because I know we can create well, right? So in the area, excuse me, of sensuality, when this archetype came into my awareness, I was very much feeling stuck in my body physically. The state I was in was just having multiple issues from early onset arthritis to pre diabetic, blood pressure threatening, the need for medication, mental health not really good, and this was around 37, 38. I'm now 46. So I just continue to love this activation because it liberated me mentally. It liberated me physically. It set me free, even in my body. And also projected me onto the career path that I'm on, my business and the things that I enjoy. It was during this time specifically in terms of sensuality. I'm using that word because I want to make sure I'm in alignment with acceptable verbiage on this platform. I was stuck in my body as far as movement. Let's talk about movement. I just told you what the physical space was. So, where movement was concerned, I was also limited spiritually by religion, because for many years I had lived a life of I cannot be worldly, I cannot move my body like this, I should not, women of God do not, you know, and so movement almost felt like a taboo for me, except in the situation of physical relation within marriage. It just felt taboo. I was not taught anything about moving my body because I love to move it. And right now, when I say sensuality, I'm not even just talking about the sexuality of it, but right now I'm just talking about movement, being able to feel and sense where the body is in time and space. I wasn't moving very much. I mean, I would walk, of course, but that's about it. And I didn't feel I had permission, right? Because my maiden and my mother phase was still very much unresolved within me of what I get to do with my body and what I have to do in my body, what's appropriate, what's required, you know. And so all of a sudden there was this introduction into I moved for myself. That was a lot to get over because, you know, male gaze is a thing, and within some spiritualities and in the circle that I was in, you don't get attention. You don't want attention. That is sinful and it's not something that you really want to do. And if you do that, you're looked at a certain way and called a certain thing. So we definitely don't want to draw attention to ourselves. And so I was wondering, like, how do I move for myself if I'm constantly worried about what someone else is going to think about it, either in reprimand or in lust? And I began to just, go into my bathroom, close the door, and swirl my hips. I can remember walking into the gym saying, I'm ready to get started exercising. And that night was a Zumba class. And the instructor teaching was so phenomenal. I mean, his hips moved all over the place. And I thought to myself, how is it that he can move his hips and I can't? And he became my mentor in group fitness, actually. Love him to pieces. Um, but I stood in the back of the class and I looked at these other women, and some of them were so free. Some of them were just moving to be moving. But there was this front row of women though, and they weren't even doing what the instructor was doing. They were doing what they wanted to do. And I looked and I was like, they're happy, they're smiling, they're doing it together, they don't care. And I said, I want that for myself. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I want that for myself. So again, it started privately in my bathroom, you know. And there's a lot to be said about this. I'll probably be making another recording. Um, Within my bathroom, I started discovering different ways to move. I picked up a few books at this time, and one of them had to do with belly dancing. And I thought to myself, okay, that's cultural, that's safe. It's not twerking, it's not winding, it's belly dancing. That's how I reasoned within myself. And this is cultural and it's meaningful, and I'm going to do that. So I had to even give myself permission to belly dance in my bathroom. Okay. That's how interesting it was. So then I said, I got this really strong um, spiritual hit that said, go apply at the gym. And to make a long story short, I didn't believe it. I was like, why would I do that, etc. They were hiring for a dance instructor, went to training, hooked up with my mentor, and that's really when my fears and these limitations began to release. Number one, because in my mind, it's exercise. I'm being trained to do this, kind of like belly dancing. It's meaningful. I had to give myself all these reasons to move my body. Okay. And a lot of people are this way. That's why I'm telling this story. And even when I would teach in the gym, I would have so many layers of clothes on because I didn't want anybody looking at me in those tights, etc. And it just really was a whole process of transformation for me. It started getting hot. Okay. It started getting hot. And I was like, okay, so at least one of these layers needs to come off. Right. And then as I began to get more confident in my body, not only with the movement, but the way that it looked, because now that I was moving, my body was transforming as well. The way that I was seeing myself was transforming. This is why I believe in the power of exercise, of dance, the merging of the mental, the spiritual, and the emotional into a practice, because it's very much intertwined and interconnected. Then, as I was progressing with that and being liberated in these ways to move, to shed layers of clothing, I also began to come into the other aspects of the wild woman energy, like, wow, I have some desires. It's not just what my children wants. It's not just what my spouse wants. I want stuff too. That was a realization of the wild woman energy. Hey, what do you want? Wow, I could want something. Actually, I've been wanting stuff all along, And so, as I began to just really succeed and excel at Crew Fitness, people began to love my class. And then women would come up and say, "You have no idea how liberated I feel, how free I feel." I've talked to people in tears. We've cried together. I taught Zumba Gold at one time, and these were older active adults, like what we call senior citizens. And I was scared to introduce my style to them, but when I did, they loved it, and they were like, "You don't know. The last time I moved like this, I was in my 20s, and I'm talking to a 70-year-old, right?" I began to realize this is a beautiful way of being, and I want more of it. Right. So I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to pose some questions to you, and I'll come back and talk more about this. What is the wild woman activation causing you to shed? What ideas? What ideas around the body? What ideas around your body? What ideas about other people's bodies? What mental frameworks need to shed? What cultural conditionings need to be purged? What do you want to be? How do you want to be? What do you want to experience in this area? And that is it. Again, my name is Coach Veronica Marie. If you're new here, welcome. You can see me on my website, reach me on my website at veronicamarie.com. You can also just connect with me on social media platforms. I spend a lot of energy on TikTok and also Instagram. You can send me an email if you want to join any of the programs that I offer, but you having trouble signing up. I want to remind you every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have a talk, a discussion, a 30-minute discussion entitled Soulful Communication. Last week, we talked about the art of listening. This week, we're going to talk about the art of self expression. We have gone over what are emotions, and we're slowly exploring what we do with them. All right. And so if that sounds like something you're interested in, you can send me an email, veronicamarie@mail.com. You could also click on any of my social media channels and click on the link and sign up there. And that is it. I hope you have a beautiful day. I look forward to hearing your responses, and we'll talk soon.